We've got thousands of people here, and welcome everybody to day number 2 of the Advanced SEO Summit with Neil Patel. I'm Clayton Wood, one of the co-producers and co-hosts, and I'm coming to you from beautiful, sunny California, luckily. Today is a really exciting, welcome everybody. Oh, we've got to close that second tab for us, Tyler. Hey, I wanted to make sure that everybody can hear me. So if you're in the chat, just give me a thumbs up if you can hear what I'm saying. And that will mean that we are off to the races. So I'm excited to see people from Stockholm, from Romania. Tyler, where are you joining us from today?
I'm oh, one sec. It's in the tab. Where is that tab? I don't know where that tab is.
I'm excited to see people from
It seems to be playing twice over.
Where are you joining us from today?
Is it done now? Is it gonna keep repeating itself?
Where is that tab?
Okay, so it is kind of repeating.
I'm gonna find it. Okay, guys, I'll just talk to you here while Tyler finds that additional tab. So that's Tyler, if you would just refresh, I think we can work that out. And to everybody in the audience, if you're hearing an echo and it's not this echo, sometimes if you've got 2 different tabs open of the same live broadcast, it will hear the delay right when a couple of seconds after that it does it. So make sure that you've only got 1 tab of Crowdcast open. And let's go live. I'll unmute Tyler again. Let's make sure that echo is gone. Tyler, are you there?
Is everything okay? Is it good? No echoes?
I think so.
Woo! Okay, sorry about that. No idea. I had no other browsers open, I swear.
That's all right. Let's keep rolling because I've got a bunch of thumbs up in the chat box from Brazil, Winnipeg, Costa Rica, Canada. George is joining us again. Really great to have everybody here. Thank you for bearing with us for the first couple of minutes while we get everything worked out. Tyler, where are you joining us from?
So I'm in the heart of Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. Little bit of an accent, if you can probably tell, but hopefully that doesn't deter me following along in the talk.
All right. So Tyler is the founder and CEO of tell us about your company and what you do.
Sure. So I am the CEO and founder of Nav43. We are a new digital advertising agency focusing on performance, technical SEO, programmatic advertising, all of the sorts. We're very new. We've been rushing to get our website up. So if you've been looking at it, there's been, well, hopefully it's launched now, but it's kind of been a splash page, and then we've been working on getting it up for this talk. But no worries, it will be up. It'll be ranking soon enough. If you want, you can contact me directly with my email address. That'll be in the slides later on. I have a little bit more of an in-depth about me as we go through the slides, so I guess we'll wait for that.
Amazing. And we were just in the green room, and you were talking about how the topic, isn't the sexiest, and you were going to alleviate that by pumping us up a little bit, right?
Yeah. So I got a little bit of some music that I'd like to play for everyone. It's the beginning talk of the day. For some of you, it's in the morning. For some of you, it's night. I have no idea. So this is going to be the intro to our talk. All right. So we're going to be talking about mind controlling those bots to get success in the SERPs. Teaching Google exactly what type of content you have, where it should be offered, and understanding relationships between all of your content. Get pumped up, guys. I swear it'll be a good talk.
That's awesome, man. I see that board behind you. You've got a bunch of check marks and you've got a deck for us as well today, right?
That I do. So don't mind the board. I left a little bit. It's kind of upside down right now. If you guys want to try this and check it out, you'll see something there. So that's a curl to check the header information on my personal website. You'll see what's there. Don't mind this list. This is my morning routine. So what I do every single morning is to be
very important
and be great.
All right, man. Sounds good. Well, if you're ready to get going, I think everybody's sufficiently pumped in the audience. We've got a bunch of people that say push it to the limit. Jason says he's pumped up. I'll just focus the deck on your slides, and you can take off, man.
Sounds perfect. All right, guys. Well,
at the end,
I'll my face, but you'll be able to see my slides. All right, guys. So here we are. I'm going to turn off Push It to the Limit. Such an awesome song, but let's actually dive into this. So today we're talking about mind controlling, manipulating bots towards success. So why should you care? You know, what are you going to get out of this talk? And the ability to understand how Google bots function and view your website is something that's paramount to ranking within the SERPs. Without this deep understanding, it's almost impossible for you to be able to optimize against the results, to be able to determine exactly what works and what doesn't work. We're going to go through the ability to decrypt and understand the behaviors of bots, what type of triggers they go through by doing a deep analysis within your server logs, as well prioritizing pages and content, as well to identify roadblocks that are preventing Google from ranking your pages. So who am I? Well, we already went through this. I'm Tyler McConville. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nav43. I'm a technical search engine optimizer. I've been in the SERPs for about 7 years now, and I'm a survivor of 2013. A little bit of a joke in there, hence the tombstone for those who have fallen. Decided to put a little bit of a pun. So the agenda for today's talk is a very short understanding of how Google works, a background on crawlbot duties, tracking those fuckers, the secret data, key takeaways, and then let's finish it off with questions. So, disclaimer before we get into this is not, and I mean not, an exploit resource. Google has done nothing especially wrong. Modifying your server and misdirecting Google bots can be damaging if not done right. Duplicating this is not guaranteed to rank you. It will work if done right, but please do not try to do all of this exactly, because you could seriously mess up your website. So let's get into the background of Google, its crawlbots, and its bot behavior. So the Google crawl. As many of you know, Google crawls your website and crawls all your pages and all of your content. What most people don't understand is the crawlbots themselves, or how the pattern happens. Everyone seems to think that an individual crawlbot is a separate computer, a separate machine that then connects to your web server, connects to your content. That could be further from the truth. What ends up happening is Google has a server, and well, they have mounts of servers, but those servers, what they do is they create a bunch of threads. So an old form of this used to be Hadoop. And what that does is, as Google starts crawling your website, it'll then start spawning multiple threads as it runs the process, doing resource allocations, and then discovering all of the content, all the links, and the understanding of those. Now, the crawlbots and their duties. So Google, the crawlbot is just a crawler. It's a discovery program for Google. All it does is mine metadata and organizes relationship mapping. One thing that you must note, crawlbots are not intelligent. All they are just scrapers. The algorithms themselves take the scraped data and then organize that accordingly. So a quick list of the actual crawlbots. So we have the desktop bot. This is a standard website scraper. We have the smartphone, which is a variation of the standard scraper with mobile rules. The image bot actually just does image checks and metadata gathering. So as an example, if you have a desktop bot, the desktop bot finds a bunch of images and a bunch of videos, it will then create a queue. That queue will then have the image bots go through and say, okay, I'm going to go through and I'm only going to check all of these image files. This way it saves resources where the image bots and the video bots do not need to have crawling functionalities to be able to detect those files, but rather can cross-communicate with the server itself to be able to detect and process them accordingly. The reason that this is important is that it creates a very robust scraping program for Google for efficiency as well as organizing data. The video bot is very much the same. All its purpose is to render videos and process videos. Netflix and other large platforms do have quite a bit of variance in the way that they offer their video files. So the video bots have to be very accurate in detecting exactly where the video is from, connecting to the CDNs, figuring out what variations the videos are, being able to navigate through the players. News and apps, we're not going to talk about too much in this topic. They're very similar to desktop. All they do is they look at semantic metadata, specifically towards applications and then towards the news. So, removing the distortion. So, what we want to do is we want to isolate Google crawlers from users. You know, when you look into a server log, it can be crazy. You can have 400 megabytes to 17 gigabytes of log files every single day. So what we need to actually do is we need to mine those server logs and compile a repository. I recommend that you use 2 months of crawl logs. And what this does is it gives us a nice variation of patterns where we can start to analyze and see trend data. When shipping the logs, make sure that you're sending them over an encrypted state to your alt stack on the network, basically just to keep sure that your information is yours, that your user information doesn't get out there. So what will this implementation also do? It'll store symmetric crawl schedules. It'll give real-time feedback on crawl errors and application issues. Shipping logs. So this is the fun part. And by fun, I mean the bland part. But it is necessary for this project to work. On the left, you can see a very ugly, nasty crawl log. So that is a log file from Apache. What we have to do is we have to splice the actual log files, get them down to 10 megabytes, and then we need to use a curl command. I use a service provider called logs.io. They're my typical go-to elk stack. So with that, you end up shipping the logs through SSL at 10 megabyte intervals, and then all of your logs are formed. So what is an elk stack? Let's go through this process. So a Googlebot goes to your web server. Your web server then forms an Apache log file. We then create a log forwarder in the previous slide, which then sends it to Logstash, a little log there with a mustache. Logstash processes the log files and organizes it properly so it can be placed into Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch is essentially a search engine. It's a little funny. We're using a search engine to understand another search engine. So Elasticsearch, what it does is it creates a search engine repository of all of the log data and the individual categories, and we'll get into actually how we utilize that later. After Elasticsearch goes into the visualization dashboard, we're able to actually see and mine exactly what type of data we'd like to see about the logs themselves. So that was a lot to take in. So what just happened? So the client connects. Every time a client connects, the server through Apache is entering a format. When this is complete, the log shipper will send the sliced log into Logstash. Elasticsearch provides a distributed, multi-capable, full-text search engine with an HTTP web interface and schema-free JSON documents. Kibana is purely just a dashboarding solution for visualization. It will connect to Elasticsearch and allow us to be able to visualize the data puts. So instead of looking at just a giant JSON export or a list of text, we can actually turn it into graphs and charts. We'll get into that a little bit later. So background summary. We're looking at the Apache logs. We're looking for those crawlbots because of the handshake and the communication between that crawlbot and our web server. So what is our mission? We want to be able to see data trends and crawl patterns from Googlebots navigating the web server. We want to gather any contextual information that we can use for forensic purposes regarding whether or not we can accomplish the above. We, as an adversary of Google, want to be able to map Googlebot's direct actions and compile data trends to be able to predict and guide the data that a Googlebot digests during a crawl. Of course, we want to do this without manipulating Googlebots too much. So, the secrets. This is the juicy stuff. So the observed data. This will be the data that we're actually processing, organizing, and viewing for this whole process. We'll be tracking the user agents, the requests, the exits, the server response, the IP address, and the source ID. Once this is all organized, and we have this now placed into our Kibana server, doesn't look very pretty right now. You get into the graphs of visualization. But what this is you're able to then see and compile data. So at the top, I have the response codes and every Googlebot that has hit those response codes. Below that, I can now see every single referral source that the Googlebots have come onto. So right at the top here is a brand new connection, and then we can see how it translates further down. On the right here, we can actually see the timestamps that bots are crawling, and we can see how this value is interchanging throughout the day. As we go through with multi-bots, you can then start segmenting it to see how individual bots are different from each other and how their patterns of crawling are very different. You can then start to isolate, hey, this desktop bot just exited from crawling this page, and then an image bot just came onto this page a few seconds later. Or vice versa, hey, I just had a huge crawl today, and now I just noticed that my desktop crawls have gone down, but my video crawls have now increased dramatically. Okay, so now we can start visualizing Google's cues towards organizing their content. So into the data itself. This is very, very, very ugly looking. This is JSON. So the way that this works is the Elk Stack will organize your crawl logs into a JSON format or a table format. You're able to see every bit of information about this individual request by a Google Crawlbot. We can see the requests, we can see the operating system, where they were located, we can see their response from the server, we can see the get, we can see where they were coming from, so what referral source was it. Once we can organize the server logs on a line by line, we can view the requests that are relatively small. Server logs are larger and cluttered, so it is a log. By being able to process this individually, we're able to sort this data to an easier digestible format. So grouping data. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. So, okay, I've now placed all of my logs for Crawlbots alone into a search engine or Elasticsearch. With Elasticsearch, now what I can do is I can say, well, let me go back to this previous slide. Each one of these points here, these are all, think of them as tables or ID values. They are all linked together, but they can all be interchanged with each other or created links from individual sections. So we can start with the log item. And what we want to track is the IP address, the request, the server response, the referral for the bot, what timestamp it was, what user agent they were using. Now we can create a brand new search with that original metadata. We can say, I want to see the agents, I want to see the times, I want to see the response code that my server gave, and I want to see the request URL that that bot actually wanted to see. Now we can get into relationship mapping. We can take it to a whole nother step. And we can say, I want the request URL, the server response, what type of bot it was, how many bytes were downloaded, where they came from, and where they left from an individual bot. Now, this might sound a little bit confusing, but what you're able to do is you're able to create an exact map of how Google is looking at your web server from its connection to what page it came from, to the directory path that it's scrolling through, to where it leaves. You can then create a cross-referential between that, and you can say, okay, I now have the exit and I have the request URL within this relationship map. So if I have desktop bot as my bot type that exits, and then I have image bot as my bot type, which requests a URL at a very similar date stamp as the exit, I can now create a relationship map. I can go a step further than that. I could say within that response from the server in the content itself, was there actual images in that? And if there was, holy shit, we just saw Google find an image, send a queue to its own bot, its image bot came in, viewed those images, and pulled the metadata accordingly for each one of them. Really cool stuff. So the results. This is a complete website crawl map. It looks very complex because it is. What this is supposed to do is this goes through every single URL on your website. Within every single URL, it shows entry points, exit points, where you can see pooling. So this is a topic that not too many people talk about, but this is something where we can actually view pools where bots are getting trapped or stuck. We can also view dead zones. So as you can see up here, there is a nice dead zone. With those dead zones or with those pools, what happens is, we go back and forth within schema and within siloing of websites. Google will then crawl certain pages, and you'll direct the path where the bot crawls. It'll crawl it naturally. But then you have these areas of the website where it's ignored. Vice versa, you'll have areas of the website where all the bots care about is that section of your website. Is that really the best experience that your website should be giving Google? Or should a crawl bot be looking at your website and saying, all of this content is good, so I'm going to make sure that I check in on this content every now and again to make sure that it's still here. If it's not, then is the content really valuable? Or Is there something on your server side that's preventing Google from actually hitting these addresses? Is there something, whether it's internal links, whether it's pathways, whether it's redirect loops, what is exactly causing these dead spots or these pools to exist naturally? A lot to take in. So how do we manipulate those crawlbots? This is the whole point of the conversation. How do we manipulate them? So you have to bear with me because the beginning of it was very complex. This is an advanced SEO topic, so mind you, take that in. For you to be able to manipulate a SERP or manipulate a crawlbot or manipulate the metadata itself, you must have to understand how it operates and how it functions. Otherwise, you might as well be shooting into a barrel, hoping that you're going to hit something. So, what's a way that we can manipulate how crawlbots actually are crawling the site? So, pre-planned crawl routes. So the reason that I'm calling them this, and I'm not going to call it a URL silo, or I'm not going to call a website silo or siloing, even though there is a picture of silos, is the web has changed quite a bit, and Google's understanding of the web has changed quite a bit. No longer are the days where you're going to be building keyword silos, where you're going to say, okay, well, only things with this keyword or this keyword suggested type are going to be in this silo, and they're not going to touch the other ones. But rather, we're going to be looking at topically focused silos, really integrating that consumer journey and the consumer map to find out, okay, what is the actual purpose of this content and where does it fit in within my sales funnel? Where does it fit in with a natural consumer journey? You can then create individual or pre-planned crawl routes by interlinking content within a pre-designated consumer journey, which the crawlbots will then be able to go through it. Now, why is this important? What's the bottom line? We want to create absolute relationships between pages for bots. That's it. We don't want a crawlbot, because essentially a crawlbot, all it's doing is scraping content, scraping metadata. It scrapes it, it reports it back. If we can position a pre-planned crawl route for a bot, we can actually influence what type of metadata you're grabbing and what relationship are you grabbing it from, so that when it sends that metadata back to the algorithm itself, the algorithm can now process it a lot more efficiently instead of having guesswork into the picture. You know, the last thing you want to do is have Google look at your website and say, okay, well, I found this content, but where does it go? Or how did I find it? Or why did I find it there? Giving an absolute relationship allows Google to be say, okay, wow, I can see your consumer journey. I can understand why these pages are like this. I can understand why this page is linked by this page with absolute certainty. So pre-planned call routes are a beautiful way to be able to manipulate those crawlbots. Second one is reactive server actions. This is very tricky, and only do this if you know what you're doing, because Google can become very angry if it kind of depicts what you're doing. So you can create a pre-programmed response from your server to Google. So a lot of things that you guys could do right now, as an example, is if you go to gtmetrics.com and you crawl my personal website, tylermcconville.com, that's kind of the fun play website that I have, you'll be able to see that I've actually pre-programmed the response that my server makes towards those bots. I was doing it a bit with the Google image bots as well for Google site speed, but it's also, you have to be a little bit careful that you don't want Google to end up looking at you as malicious. So an example, what can we do? You can pre-program your server to be very reactive and craft responses accordingly. So if you find a bot is going through its natural flow through content, and maybe the referral page that it's coming from, you've already pre-designated, hey, sorry, dude, I don't want you to check out this page if you came from here. So your server, before sending the response back to Google, says, you know what, dude? Here you go. Here's a 304 response. Nothing has changed here. Don't look at me. You can then look at addressing internal links, referral sources. You can provide the crawlbot with a unique metadata within headers to avoid server silly errors. So you can literally create any sort of header you want. You can pre-process it to Google. So a lot of this, what happens is people have their no index tags, their canonical tags placed in the headers instead of on the website itself. Makes it a little bit easier when the server is controlling it instead of your web application itself. So One sec. Sorry, that slide was supposed to be there. So the takeaways from this topic. You can track Crawlbots and form trends. We can see exactly what bots are doing, when they're doing them, why they're doing them, and then we can start to create predictions based off of those trends. Any change that you make on a web page, whether you're modifying your schema, whether you're modifying your HTML, your images, your CDN, you can create a direct link and a direct map towards going back and saying, okay, this changed, created this response, and Google then compiled this metadata from that response, sent it back to its server. Once it was sent back to its server, how is it processed? What are the changes that have happened in the SERP? It's no longer the days where you're looking at your webmaster tools and saying, okay, there's this lovely graph showing me exactly how many kilobytes Google's downloaded and how many bots they sent to my website. You can't actually gain insights from that. What you can do with this is you can say, I made a change on this site, on this specific page. I added this image, and now I can see exactly Google has sent 4 Crawlbots in the past 2 days. Today, they sent a video bot to go check out my video. Now I've been submitted into the index. All right, you start to create these relationships. You can start to say, okay, well, why did it take 3 days for me to be submitted to the index after I was crawled? What kind of happened? When I was offering my JSON or my markup, Google didn't put it into its SERPs, but it crawled the data. Was there an issue with it? I'm getting mysterious drop-offs and crawls. Are there any server-side issues that are happening in the background that I can't see visually, but I can react to immediately? So the end of the day is that Crawlbots are just scrapers. That's all they are. They mine metadata and they report it back to Google. So all you can do is manipulate exactly what they do and learn from how they react to content or how they react to changes to then further the amount of metadata that you can provide for them. And that's it. That is, that's the whole topic. Anybody have any questions?
Hey, thanks, man. That was great. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I lost anyone there. It's like, I tried to condense it as much as possible because some of those things, like especially in Elk Stack, you can go down the rabbit hole. So if anybody is curious, I can go into a future talk breaking down exactly the process to do each of those things instead of very generic of how you do it. But that's probably an hour on itself. So
Sure. So King, and probably the most upvoted question is, can you repeat everything? Just kidding. That's a joke. You can't.
Maybe. Not exactly. I'll paraphrase, but yeah.
No, it was great. Actually, for those who came in halfway through, or for those that want to rewatch it, right after this session is over, you'll be able to click play on it. So if you want to watch it again and use some of those exact items that were in Tyler's deck, be sure and rewatch this session. Now, before we get into the technical stuff, Deborah says, cool stuff. Tyler, you're the king geek, geekiest of the geeks.
It's not the first time I've heard that. I have like a lot of developer friends. I started off as a developer. So I was programming in Java, building search engines before I became an SEO. So a lot of my understanding is taking previous skill sets and looking from a logical standpoint of how it's supposed to operate, what it needs, what type of inputs it needs to be able to process it, and then what the outcome is. So yes, I'm totally aware that I'm a geek.
And a bunch of people have been asking throughout, let's just cover it now. Where can they follow you or read about you? What's your company website, your personal website? What if they want to email you?
I have been hidden behind the scenes SEO for the past few years, working on enterprises. Haven't really had time to be able to create a public post. I want to do a lot more speaking engagements. And now that I have my own company, it gives me a lot more opportunity to create this sort of presence for us and to really elevate the industry. And I'm going to do another topic soon to talk about, because I'm sorry, Clayton, if I'm just kind of preemptively going into this, but a topic that I want to go to is talking about SEO as an industry and how SEO is extremely flawed in the general aspect of how people look at it. It's not attached to Google. SEO does not mean Google. Google is a platform that SEO is most commonly used for, but to optimize a search engine just means that you are finding an engine, reversing the metadata that it considers so that you can create a result to become more relevant towards a query. So I want to do a full talk on that, and yeah.
All right. Well, what's your website and what's your email address if people want to?
Sure. So I'll put this back on. One sec. So there's my email address if anyone can see that. So it's tyler@nav43.com. Nav43.com is my agency's website. It has had a landing page for a while. Oh, look at that. It is now live. Woo! So it was a landing page. We are a very fresh agency. My partner and I have been working through referrals for the past year. And then now we're going through an escalation stage of becoming more public and more out there. So anyone that wants to hop on a call or ask any questions or email me directly, you can contact me, Tyler at Nav43, or on LinkedIn or email. Like, doesn't really matter. I'm fairly open to talk anytime.
All right, cool. And some other people are asking, it's unrelated, but they think that board behind you has a morning routine, and they want to know, what is your morning routine?
All right, guys. So this is my morning routine. I try my best every single day to make sure that all of these are checked off. Sometimes you have really early work days or you have to go to the gym in the morning. So it does get a little bit tricky to stick to it. I'll go through it quickly. So I start off from the top, go to the bottom. First one, drink a liter of water as soon as you wake up, hydrate your body, then do some breathing exercises. So reoxygenate all the blood into your body so you feel alert, you feel awake. After that, I do a meditation. Varies, it could be 15 minutes to 30 minutes. Then shower and groom, basic stuff. I do a prime and affirm, so affirmations, kind of reinstating what your goals are and get yourself mentally pumped up. I have breakfast, plan my day, review my goals for the week, and then execute. And that is my schedule.
Awesome. Okay, let's get into some of the questions about the talk that you just gave. So the most upvoted question here is from Eric. And Eric's asking, what are some of the most obvious yet overlooked SEO techniques or tasks that should be on everyone's SEO checklist but aren't?
That is 100% URL structuring. 100%. Every single website I've ever worked on, well, in the past year and a half, I would say, has had to have a complete URL restructure. So a lot of people, there's two scenarios. One, an SEO thinks they know what they're doing. They're like, URLs, let's create an information architecture. Second one is a developer saying functionality. You need to create a very in between that. You need to say, okay, much like the silos I was talking about in my presentation, what is the topical relevancy from my root? So what am I as a company, as a business, as a website? What am I from the broadest of broad? And so me, I'm a digital advertiser, or I'm a digital alchemist, or whatever you want to call it. Every page underneath that in your main nav should be supporting topics towards your main topic. And then all of the content underneath those should be further tiered down supporting topics to support those general topics, which support the upper topic, which then transcends the topical authority throughout the whole website. Just kind of gets geeked out for a second there. But so that is the number one by far. Is a lot of people say, hey, Google is not crawling my website, or hey, my pages are taking a long time to be indexed. Almost like 9 out of 10 times, that is because of URL structure. Google is finding your content and saying, I don't understand why this is here, what it relates to, why you even have it. So being able to address that and make a nice tier, making absolute certainty for Google what that page is and why it's important and why you're writing about it, will actually build the authority within the SERPs, because Google can say, hey, Tyler McConville, he's an SEO geek writing about SEO. Okay, let's put him there. Versus Tyler's writing about plumbing. Tyler knows nothing about plumbing. So you just have to make sure that everything is looked at very accordingly and that it makes sense. Optimizing towards Google is good. Optimizing towards your consumers is a lot more important. Google will try to understand that relationship. If you handhold Google through your consumer journey, then you will rank. That's the easiest way.
Awesome. Okay. The next question has been a reoccurring question through all of our sessions, and it's from Adrian Barden. And people keep upvoting it, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it. It's a great one. Thanks, Adrian, for submitting this to another session. The question is, what's one question that comes to mind that you wish more people asked you about? So you're an expert, and many viewers might be beginners. Help us think out of the box and reframe our thinking beyond something like the art of SEO basics or the other typical topics that we hear about.
Okay, so a lot of things that people don't ask about, which I wish they did more, was understanding authority. A lot of people, for some reason, transcend links and mentions and content marketing and social advertising and social signals towards authority. Much like the talk yesterday about PINs or private influencer networks, it is not necessarily a metric that designates what authority is. It is in the essence of, are you authoritative? And Google is not stupid anymore. It's not, hey, we don't understand semantic links between content or relationships between pages on external websites. It's, hey, yeah, we do understand that. And we understand how people talk about you. We understand how press talks about you. We understand the type of content you talk about yourself. Now, is there a match between the two of those? Do people talk about you the same way you talk about yourself? Are your service offerings the same way that you're saying they are and somebody else is saying them? Mind you, I'm not saying build links. It's all about perception. It's Google is looking at you and looking at sources. Easier way to do this. Citations, local SEO. Citation is purely a source telling Google, you have this business name at this address with this phone number. It's the same thing for authority. You are yourself or your business. You do this. That is it.
Cool. I like it. Thanks. Okay, next question. Sebastian is asking, in your opinion, what are the most important factors to rank a brand new website as quickly as possible inside of a content strategy? So out of all the things you can do in content, what are the most important?
Sure. So this is a question now if links do exist. So I have a very firm belief, once you have a backbone or a base of links, you can build off of it. You don't necessarily need to keep building links, they'll naturally occur. If you're starting from scratch, your best thing to do is make sure that one, I would consult a PR company. Two, I would do content writing that promotes people actually talking about it, sharing it, that don't kind of follow the tier and be like, this keyword is trending, I'm going to write about this keyword. No, why don't you find a keyword that's trending or find a topic that's trending and then create your own personal spin on it, something that has intent behind it or makes a social share worthy behind it so that people are intrigued when they see it. They're, oh, you know what? That's interesting. This topic is trending, but I never heard anybody talk about it this way. Devising that is actually going to build you much faster than any other strategy. Of course, that's the assumption that the website itself is not hindering you, because if it is, if you have a WordPress website and you're using standard WordPress tags and categories and the ugly URL structure where it's like the date stamp and then the blog name, then of course your website's going to hold you back. It's like putting a chain and ball on. Assuming the website's fine, all you have to do is make sure that you understand where you want to fit in. Make sure you have a clear understanding of who your consumers are and what they're looking for, and then talk to them. That's really the easiest way.
All right, cool. So we've got another question that has a lot of upvotes. They want to know, Dennis wants to know, what should I say to the people that call me every week and offer to get me on page 1 of Google?
Well, you can say, give me $1 million.
I think that's a joke question.
Yeah, that's a joke. For those people, it comes down to an understanding. Typically, when people say, I want to be first page on Google or I want to be first position on Google, they have a misunderstanding of what actually SEO is. So being able to guide them through it and educate them, or taking the opportunity to educate them, is a much better way than saying, hey, sorry, man, no, I can't guarantee that you're going to be there within a certain time period. You can say, this is how it actually works. It's going to take, and based off of your industry, based off of your competitiveness in your industry, based off of your current metrics, it's going to take you roughly this roadmap to get there. And the reason it's going to take you that is we need to go through every single one of these hurdles. We need to assess the full strategy as it's happening. Once it's happened, then you're able to say, okay, yes, we can. Now that you understand what needs to go into it, we can get there. But if you set up the false expectations beforehand, you can fall down the rabbit hole where they get mad at you and then you get mad at them, and then nobody really wants to deal with that.
Yeah, they're just trying to sell a service. That's all. Okay, Steven's asking, what is the best or recommended all-in-one tool that can assist with SEO techniques? He says, I'm hearing amazing things about SERP.net, also SE ranking. SERP.net has Ahrefs and Majestic info available with the subscription. What would be your professional recommendation? And what, even further, it might be a good, what tools do you use kind of question?
So I don't believe in using universal suites. I never have. Actually, no, it's a lie. I did. 2011-ish, I did. And then everyone started branching out. I'm assuming because an enterprise client came to them and said, hey, can you also do this for us? And they were like, oh, money. And they're like, yes, we're going to add these features. With suites, what's very common is nobody does everything great. They do it to a satisfactory level where, yes, you can pull metrics from it, but is it really metrics that you can interpret and build off of? Not necessarily. What I normally do is I have separate tools. So for rank tracking, I use a tool called Rank Ranger. It is a little expensive. It is pricey. They do give you a daily index of 500 positions, as well as pretty much every engine on the planet. With that, they also have suites of other tools. I don't use any of them. The rank tracker has been flawless for me. So I use that. For backlink analysis, I do use Ahrefs. I was there during the Ahrefs, Majestic, and then Moz, where everyone was saying which one is the best backlink tool. I still stick with Ahrefs being the best one. Comparatively, year over year, if you look at their actual index of links, how live the links are, how fresh they are, when they were last crawled, Ahrefs does a much better job at maintaining their list of links than everyone else does. Tool that you can't live without is Webmaster Tools. Obviously, what Google is going to report to you is very good. Sometimes they lie to you, which is fine, as long as you understand that they're going to lie to you. I use logs.io, so that's what we went through in this talk. What that does is it allows you to get a extremely accurate, like almost guaranteed accurate. The reason that it's not 100% is Google doesn't always necessarily declare itself as a Google bot. It'll pretend to be a user and use some random IP address and not use a Google user agent. Therefore, it's almost impossible to tell this is a Google bot unless you mapped your trend data accordingly and you're able to see that there's very similar trends in two users. Then you can find all the Google bots with certainty. Use SEMrush for some of our enterprise clients, mainly because being able to track 100,000 keywords is very expensive. SEMrush does have its pitfalls in the sense that the data itself is not that accurate. It's all right to get a rough picture. So we normally take keyword data in SEMrush and whatever keywords we're aiming for within that month, we will export, say, 1,000 keywords into Rank Ranger so that we can get a 100% accurate view of those keywords, where they are, how they're changing based off of reactive changes that we do, what's going on, as well as cross-referencing that to the web server. Then obviously keyword planning, we use keyword.io as well as the keyword planner. Screaming Frog, I can't live without. I hope nobody from Deep Crawl is here. I don't like your tool. It's expensive and you guys force people to view data in your Outlook instead of letting them do it on their own. So I'm very all into Screaming Frog in the sense you export your data into a spreadsheet and you can organize it, create pivot tables, and then create the assessment accordingly.
Yeah, that's good. That's a lot of good keywords. So there's a follow-up question. It's something similar. We'll ask this one next. Somebody's asking, Sam is asking, if you don't have a bunch of money to subscribe to all of those tools, how can you do some of those same functions for free?
Sure. So I started off when I was beginning SEO. I had a PSP downloads website for PSP games. That website, we used something called SERPFox. It was free. They gave 15 keywords for free, and it was fairly accurate. I think it was 150 positions. Not the most accurate. You find once you get into past 250 keywords, you can really see some solid insights. So you can see this page is indexed 400th to 50th position, and then you make a change and now it's 270th position. If you don't have that insight, how do you know that change actually resulted in a lift? You're just going to say, oh, it didn't work. What the fuck? Within not having very much money, a lot of the free tools work. I would say using something like Surffox or a free search engine result tracker is good. You can use Majestic and Ahrefs, I believe, for free still. They used to be totally free at one point that you paid for additional features. But yeah, you can use those. Link metrics, getting SEMrush is not necessary. It's not the most accurate, and what it's going to give you is false hopes, essentially. So I would say keyword picker, so keyword tracker, Screaming Frog, and then Ahrefs or Majestic or another free link-based tool.
Okay, great. Awesome. These are some really great questions. Next one is from Dan. He's saying SEO workflow, useful tools to manage clients' tasks and reporting progress. He's saying his clients need, simple and clear reports about progress. What was done and what's ahead on the roadmap.
So we use a new solution. We've been using it for 5 months now, I believe. It's called Clipfolio. I don't think too many people really use Clipfolio when they should. I'll give a quick synopsis. Clipfolio is a dashboarding solution very similar to Cabana that I'm using for my logs. And what it does is it allows you to be able to connect into API connections of all of your tools and then import all of that data into the dashboard. And then you can treat it like Excel formulas, and you can visualize that data any way that you want. So you can say, I'm going to pull analytics data for organic traffic and lift. I'm going to have a white Spark export, which is for citations, and I'm going to connect to their API. So then it's going to show me month over month how many citations I have. I'll have my rank tracker pull into it so they can see what positions they have, if they've moved up, if they've moved down. I'll have conversion rate values, and then you can also have like notepad sections of saying, this is what was done, here's a summary, this is why we did this is what we noticed. That has been very tricky. The learning curve for it is quite a bit, but the best solution I have ever used by far.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Great answers. And everybody's loving these questions. Somebody was asking, what's the URL of that tool that you were just mentioning? Do you know?
Which one?
They didn't say. So maybe the last couple?
Fucking, they said a bunch of them. I need to be specific.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll
maybe it was as you
talk. We'll type them in as you talk about them moving forward. No worries. Okay, next question. Google officially always suggests to never use nofollow on internal links. Should we really go beyond their official suggestion and use PageRank sculpting for SEO? And what would you prefer, only 100 actual blog posts in Google's index or thousands of pages in Google's index, provided there were only real 100 actual posts and the others are just bogus URLs? Does that make sense?
I think that's pretty obvious. For the last part, you want to have the 100. I would say 120, maybe 140, depending. But you don't want to be like, hey, you're not going to see all my JavaScript or my CSS or my images. Of course, you want those indexed. But having 1,000 pages to 100 or 1,000 URLs to 100 pages makes no sense. Right. It's imagine a Crawlbot coming in there and be like, what the fuck did I just find? There's nothing here. What was the first part of the question? The
first part was
no follow internals. So you should no follow internals only if they're going towards pages that you don't want Google to see. So like if I have a login page or a portal page for my customers, I'm gonna no follow that. I'm gonna say, hey dude, I don't want you to see this. If it's like, say I'm a SaaS-based company, I'm like, I want them to see my login page, and of course they're gonna follow it. PR sculpting is very old. We talk about something very similar, which is topical sculpting. Topical sculpting is you're not using no follows. You're just making sure that the majority of links are associated with that topic, whether they're external or they're internal. If you link to a page that's not necessarily a part of that topic, then you should be asking yourself, why is that link relevant towards the content that it's hosted on, right? So that's the easiest way to do that. I guess I should probably write a blog on this, which is topical sculpting, I guess. It's not PageRank because PageRank kind of died. It's a useless metric, but topical relevancy is something that's very alive.
Yeah, and it's something that people struggle with. So we'd love to see a blog post about it. Okay, next question from George. How do I access my website's Google Crawl map so I can view the dead spots?
What?
He wants to know, how do I set up my pages? So it's a very beginner question. He wants to know, where can you go and look to see where Google is crawling your website the easiest possible way?
You can't. Well, you can if you do everything we did in this talk. Otherwise, you can't. You have no idea. The easiest way, I guess, would be get your server logs for a whole month or whatever period you want. Make sure it's over a month, because sometimes Google's crawl frequencies are a little bit all over the place. If they have a bad outlook on a page, they'll say, yeah, we'll check on this page 30 days or 24 days or whatever, versus some other pages will say, we're going to check on this every 2 days. So get like a nice length of time, and then export all of that data into a spreadsheet. Remove everything except for the get URLs that Google is doing. Have Screaming Frog export a crawl of all of your pages. Create a pivot table of those 2 columns and say, show me all of the ones where these links are not the same. So I want to see every single link on my Screaming Frog crawl that Google has not crawled. That's the easiest way, I would say.
Okay, excellent. That's it. And the overall question, or the overall answer, is to watch this presentation again as soon as we're done here at the half hour. We've got a general question. Somebody wants to know, Akash wants to know, he's just starting out in SEO. How much investment should he put in learning all the technical stuff?
Time or money?
Time.
So time, I would say 95% of it, if not all of it. So the best way to look at it is, I'm trying to think of a very easy analogy. Your website is a house that you want to sell. So would it make more sense to learn how to better that house, make sure it's clean, make sure it's well optimized, before putting the advertisements up to say this house is for sale? Right? So think of the links or any other external factors as being those ads that send people there. Make sure that your house is stable. Make sure that you understand what's going on in your website and that you have no guesswork. If you're doing a lot of guessing, you're saying, well, I think this page will do well here. Well, that's going to increase the amount of time that you have to assess what's working and what's not working, because you're like, oh, well, maybe it was this, or maybe it was that, and maybe it was this. And you start multivariate testing your website for SEO, which takes forever.
Yeah, definitely. And the people in the chat are resounding, answering with the same answer. And I sort of knew that was going to be the answer, but I just wanted to make it known that technical SEO is in so many ways the base of everything that will be successful for you online.
So the best example I can give to support that is, recently I did a pretty large audit for someone you all know, but I'm not going to mention it because I haven't asked. They have a ton of links, like a lot of links, and they spend a lot of money investing in links. They're having a big issue with indexing, and their page is taking a long time to actually hit the index and start ranking accordingly, which for them is, but I have so much authority, why am I not here? With that, you need to look at it and say, okay, well, maybe it's not the authority that's the issue, but maybe it's Google doesn't understand exactly what's going on in your website. You know, if it's taking 6 months or 4 months for a page to get indexed and ranked for your keywords, maybe there's a misunderstanding on your website where Google's saying, I don't really understand why this page is here, or I don't have a clear way to find this page, or I don't have any semantic links to this page. And I'm not talking about external links, I'm talking about internal links. So 100%, if you do not make sure your website is functioning and optimized correctly, don't expect to have amazing results in the SERPs unless you're going after a very easy niche. So you have a town of 30,000 people and you're going after a local keyword. That's when it wouldn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Okay, cool. We've got 3 more minutes left. So let's do rapid fire on the last few questions. Ed is asking, what order of attack would you put on the various technical on-page SEO checklist items?
Okay, so first, keywords. Well, technically, first, webmaster tools, see what's going on in the back end, or at least what has been going on in the back end. Second, look at their keywords. So do a deep dive into what keywords they're trying to optimize towards. Try to make sure that those keywords actually fit into their audience and what type of search intent is behind those keywords. Once you have that map, you create that map of keywords onto the website that currently exists and say, where should these keywords belong? Where's the best place? Once you have that, now assess, okay, this keyword belongs here, but does this page belong in its correct section of the website? Does it make sense where it fits in? Is it relevant towards anything? Is it being linked anywhere? Not externally, internally. Is it being linked internally anywhere? Is the website itself supporting this topic, or is it something that's very off topic? Then look into keyword cannibalization. That is also massive. So I have keyword groups. So I guess a further topic would be keyword stuffing is not good. So you no longer optimize a web page towards a keyword. You optimize it towards a keyword topic. That keyword topic will then house a group of keywords that are devised around intent within that topic. So then whenever somebody's searching for that keyword within a given intent, then your page shows up. If your page does not support that intent, then you're not going to show up because you're not answering their question or you're not becoming appealing to them. Once you have that, address keyword cannibalization. So see if there was any keyword stuffing where they have multiple variations of the same keyword to the topic and say, okay, well, this is not good. Where should we mitigate this? Should we consolidate them to a singular one? Should we branch off and make them a little bit separate and turn it into a separate topic? And then transcend that down into the on-page SEO of the individual pages, the URL structures, the site speed, and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Okay, so sort of a futuristic type of question here. Shannon is asking, how do you think AI will affect or change how SEO is done in the future? Any insight?
I think we're already there, at least as close as we're going to be for a while. So backing for that, I've been saying this for about a year and a half now, ever since Hummingbird came out. A lot of people are like, oh, Hummingbird. Ooh. Hummingbird is a pivotal point for Google. It's when Google finally elevated itself with Panda and its other processes to understand content relationships. So neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, is a huge focus, a huge area towards building AI technology. And what it does is it's learning or creating machine learning towards how people type and people associate topics and people have context within topics. So if I'm talking about Apple, am I talking about the company Apple, or am I talking about a red juicy apple? What's the context behind it? Ever since Google has released Hummingbird, and ever since the way that Google is able to now understand the content on our website, there has to be some level of machine learning. You can extend that even to a further base where you see Google, I think it was, guess what this is? It's like a drawing game that Google launched, and you draw something, it tells you what to draw, and then it auto suggests what it is. Guess what you're doing? You're submitting your input from how you interpret that object and feeding that into Google's index for Google to learn from it. So this has been out for a year. When it first came out, it was horrible. You do it now, and it tells you to draw a tree, and you start drawing a really shitty tree, it'll say it's a tree. And the reason it did that is because there was a million of us that associated that rough drawing with a tree. So back to AI, we're not far away from it. I don't think Google will ever fully go AI and say, we have nobody checking the SERPs, we're going full blown. I think they do want to have some sort of liability there where they can mitigate anything. So say, hey, Tyler just created a torrent website, and now I have a ton of torrents. They don't want a bot to determine whether those torrents are legit, whether they're fake, whether I'm cloaking them, whether I'm not cloaking them. They'd want to have somebody that can be like, hey, yeah, there's a DCMA request. We need to go in and we need to review this URL manually, this website manually. But yeah, it's not far away. You guys can do some tests of your own, and you will see that semantic linking between content and links and external websites does show signs that an AI or a somewhat AI is present within certain specific areas of the algorithm, not the overall. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That is all the time that we have. We didn't get to all of the questions. So Tyler, give us.
If they have any more, just send me an email. So it's tyler@nav43.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Why not? Message me there if you'd like to. And yeah.
Thank you so much, man. Great to be with you today. And what a wonderful in-depth look at the Crawlbot. Thanks, bro. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for hosting me. And guys, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the talks.
All right. Okay, everybody. So that was Tyler McConville of Nav43. You all just had a ton of great questions. I love all of the input and all of the great questions about tools and softwares and crawling. I'm going to throw it over to our next summit right here. So without further ado, we've got the founder and CEO of Yoast, which you're probably familiar with. And he's going to go for the next little bit in the session. So just sit tight where you're at, and we'll talk with the founder and CEO of Yoast. So thanks, and we'll see you in the next session.